You can attack my policies. You can misrepresent my words. But you have spent weeks trying to tear down my wife. J.D. Vance's voice, raw with emotion, filled the silent studio. And the only thing you have managed to prove, Representative Crockett, is that you wouldn't recognize honor if it stared you in the face. The political career of Jasmine Crockett was a ghost, haunting the halls of Congress, where she was now shunned. Her donors had fled, her party had censured her, and her constituents were in open revolt. Any normal politician would have disappeared, retreating into a quiet shame. But Jasmine Crockett was not normal. Her obsession with the Vance family had consumed her, and she had one last, desperate card to play. She had secured a spot on The Arena, the nation's most confrontational primetime news show. The host, a man who prized ratings over decency, had then extended an invitation to Vice President J.D. Vance for a special one-on-one debate. In the Oval Office, President Trump tossed the invitation onto the resolute desk. "It's a setup, J.D., a televised ambush. She's a wounded animal. Don't get in the cage with her." J.D. Vance stared at the invitation. He knew the president was right. It was a trap designed to give Crockett one last platform to spew her venom. But the attacks hadn't just been on him. They had been on his wife, Usha. He felt a deep, personal need to face the accuser himself, not just for his own honor, but for hers. That evening, he discussed it with Usha. She sat quietly, listening as he weighed the political pros and cons. When he finished, she looked at him, her eyes clear and steady. "This isn't political, J.D.," she said softly. "This woman has lied about my citizenship, my family, and my father. She has attacked my character from every angle. If you go on that show, don't go as the vice president, go as my husband." Her words solidified his decision. He would walk into the lion's den. President Trump, seeing the resolve in his friend's eyes, gave a slow nod. "All right, J.D., go. But remember, you're not there to debate her lies. You're there to expose her soul. Let the American people see exactly what she is." The set of The Arena was cold and modern, designed to feel like a gladiator's coliseum. J.D. Vance sat opposite Jasmine Crockett, who wore a predatory smile. The air crackled with tension as the cameras went live. For the first few minutes, the host maintained a facade of civility, asking about policy. But then, he turned to Crockett. "Representative, you have made some very serious accusations against the vice president's family. The floor is yours." This was the moment she had been waiting for. Crockett leaned into her microphone, her eyes boring into Vance. "Thank you," she began, her voice dripping with poison. "We have moved past the documents, which I still believe were covered up. We are now looking at a pattern of behavior. I have been speaking with a source, a very reliable source, who attended Yale Law School with Usha Vance." Vance remained perfectly still, his face an unreadable mask. "This source tells a disturbing story," Crockett continued, her voice rising. "A story of a ruthlessly ambitious woman who would step on anyone to get ahead. Betraying friends for better grades, stealing ideas for law review, cutting corners on moot court, all to build a perfect resume. This isn't about immigration, it's about character. The character of a woman who manipulated her way to the top and then married into political power." She turned her full attention to Vance, her words a series of rapid-fire jabs. "How does it feel, Mr. Vice President, to sit there knowing your wife's entire life is a carefully constructed lie? Is that the kind of family values this administration represents? A foundation of deceit and betrayal?" The host looked on, letting the attack hang in the air. The nation watched, expecting an explosion. They expected Vance to pound the table, to shout, to trade insults. He did none of those things. He took a slow, deliberate breath. He didn't look at Crockett. He didn't look at the host. He looked directly into the central camera, his eyes finding the lens as if he were looking into the living room of every American family watching. And then he began to speak. His voice was quiet, not with weakness, but with a profound emotional weight that instantly commanded the attention of everyone. For the last few weeks, he began softly, Representative Crockett has been on a crusade, not against me, but against my wife. So, if you'll permit me, I'd like to tell you about the woman she has been so desperately trying to destroy. The studio fell silent. Her name is Usha. Her parents came to this country from India with very little. They worked tirelessly, saved every penny, and poured all their hopes and dreams into their daughter. They taught her that in America you could achieve anything, but that your character, your integrity, was the only thing you truly owned. He paused, a flicker of a memory in his eyes. When I met her at Yale, I didn't see the ruthless caricature Ms. Crockett is trying to paint. I saw the most brilliant, passionate, and decent person in the room. I saw a woman who would stay up all night helping a classmate who was struggling, even if it meant her own grades might suffer. I saw a woman who argued for justice with a fire that had nothing to do with ambition and everything to do with a deep, unshakable belief in what is right. His voice grew stronger, filled with a husband's pride. You talk about her career. She could have taken any high-paying job on Wall Street. Instead, she chose to work in public service. You talk about her marrying into power? I can promise you, when we got married, a life in politics was the furthest thing from our minds. She married a broke, unknown law student from Ohio. She didn't marry up. She lifted me up. She is the rock upon which my life is built. He finally turned his head slowly and looked at Jasmine Crockett. The smile had vanished from her face, replaced by a look of stunned confusion. You can attack my policies. You can misrepresent my words. But you have spent weeks trying to tear down my wife. His voice was now raw with emotion, yet perfectly controlled. And the only thing you have managed to prove, Representative Crockett, is that you wouldn't recognize honor if it stared you in the face. You wouldn't know decency if it shook your hand. You have tried to paint her as a monster, but the reflection you see is your own. You haven't laid a glove on her, he finished, his voice dropping to an almost whisper, but every word landing like a hammer blow. You haven't touched her integrity. You've only exposed the gaping, hollow emptiness in your own soul. Silence. Absolute, deafening silence. The host was frozen. The crew was motionless. Jasmine Crockett sat there, her mouth slightly agape, her eyes wide. She had come prepared for a political brawl, for shouts and interruptions. She was utterly unprepared for a quiet, heartfelt defense that stripped her of her humanity and left her looking like nothing more than a cruel, petty bully. As the silence stretched, a phone buzzed on the producer's desk. It was a push notification from Truth Social, from Donald J. Trump. The post was simple. A husband's love and a patriot's truth. That's real power. Some people will never understand. Stand with Usha. The spell was broken. The host, flustered, stammered, We have to take a commercial break. The show never recovered. The rest of the debate was a formality. Crockett was a ghost at the table, unable to make eye contact, her final weapon having been melted down into slag by the force of Vance's love for his wife. Vance's speech was not just a defense, it was a defining moment. It transcended politics. It was the story of a husband defending his wife, of decency confronting hate, of truth silencing lies. Jasmine Crockett had sought to end the Vances with one final, character assassination. Instead, J.D. Vance's emotional defense had silenced her, and the nation, for good. In the end, it wasn't a political argument or a piece of evidence, but an emotional defense of character that won the day. What part of J.D. Vance's speech do you think was the most powerful in silencing his opponent? Let us know your thoughts, and subscribe for more stories where the human heart triumphs.